So absolutely, I'm supportive of it 100%.
Thank you. Looks like there's time for another question or two. This will be answered first by Mr. Sirico.
This question is really a follow-up to the question asked earlier by Addie Hurst. While I would certainly agree that nobody would want to see fighting and bickering among school board members and administrators, it really would not be at all productive for our school system. On the other hand, I think if you speak about transparency, about closer relationships with the community, it is important for the community to have an understanding of the range of opinion on the board. If all of the discussion, all of the analysis around various policies is conducted behind closed doors, the community is in the dark as to how decisions are made and the basis for those decisions. With that in mind, and agreeing that nobody wants to see fighting, on television especially, how would you handle that issue?
Well, I think that's a good question, and I think it's something that I've heard quite a bit from the community. I'd be an advocate of open discussions in the meetings, and I think that would be helpful. And there's really no other way to deal with that. I think maybe as board members, when we get on, we decide a little bit and talk about how we can do that to meet the needs of the community, and hopefully address some of your points. But I think again, open debate is fine. It's an open meeting, and that's the way it ought to be.
Ms. Aquino?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think that's a very good question, and you're absolutely 100% correct. I think we've, as a current board member, we've been more conscious of doing exactly what you've just said. I think when we first started to discuss the bond proposal, we thought of adding on to Primrose. We thought of adding a whole new school. I think you saw a lot of that debate in front of the camera. Because we were amongst ourselves in turmoil, because we had numbers going up, numbers going down, what should we do? And it was a healthy discussion. And I think 4 of us or 5 of us voted not to add on to Primrose. Some people felt really strongly about adding it to Primrose. It was a healthy debate. It was we weren't nasty, we weren't it wasn't ugly, but it was healthy, and I agree with that. We also talked about last year adding 2 psychologists to the schools. You saw that debate in front of the cameras. It was also very healthy, and I happen to agree with you. We should do more of that, and I know we are more aware of it and more conscientious of it, and we are trying to do that and more respectively. Thank you.
Mr. Chang?
Yes, I think the way to deal with this, I think, is the board should have more public forum when issues are complex or internally people have controversial viewpoints. I think the best is to seek out the community's opinions and then having special sessions among the board members and then understand, digest what you get and receive from the public. No matter how complex the issue, as I said before, you have to understand it and find the compromise and reach the solution. Public forum is always available, and it's not that expensive other than the time. And if you serve on the board, you must have time. If you don't, you shouldn't serve on the board. I guess that's the case. So I think I will suggest the board also to improve on the dissemination of information. For example, the minutes notes sometimes is too simple or cryptic in a way that people do not understand. We could improve that. And certainly people can have rights to request opinions from board members or from any discussion minutes. I think those are ways of improving the understanding and improve the transparency that you referred to.
Thank you. Mr. Oliviers?
I said right from the beginning that I believe it should be transparent as a board member. Everything should be out in the open, okay? this is, I look at our school system as a $71 million corporation, okay? And its goal is to educate our children the best way they can. You are the stockholders, the shareholders. You have a right to know what's going on, all right? You have a stake in the school system. We all do. Debate should be public. People should know what's going on. There's a difference in today's society between a debate and an argument. We can, as board members, be respectful and disagree and dissent and state reasons why. You know, we don't always have to be, you know, one big group saying, you know, we're not going to let people know our opinions. You should let people know. You're the voters. You're the ones that are going to be putting us here. We're accountable to you.
Thank you. Another question? Yes. Mr. Olifers will go first with this one.
I'm still Addie Hurst, still from Heritage Hills. We had one question about special education, and certainly we know that they have great needs and that it's a tremendous expense for our school district. My concern is gifted children. I recently asked Dr. Mason about the gifted program for Somers. She gave a wonderful answer for the high school, but I was not really happy with her answer for the lower grades, and after all, these gifted children are our future leaders. I don't so much want an answer from each of you as a pledge that you'll at least look into what kind of gifted program we have for our younger children.
My answer to what I believe is your question is this. As a board member, I had said earlier, 10% of the children are in special needs on average, 10% are in gifted programs, and we have children that are in the middle that are sometimes forgotten and overlooked. However, I agree there should be no limits when it comes to children that excel. We should be pushing the envelope as much as we can. How do we do that? As a school board, we sit down, we have development meetings, staff development meetings. We should be encouraging, as they are now, but even more so, teachers to come up with ideas, teachers to come up with programs that challenge our children, challenge our school district. Any ideas that came forward through our administration and our Dr. Marion, I would pay attention to, so that we can challenge our students to make them the very best that they can possibly be.
Mr. Sirico?
Yes, Addie, I think that's a good question, and you're not the first person that has raised that issue with me. I think that it's something that we could, take a look at and, explore a bit in terms of how to address, the gifted, children, and try to understand a little bit about where we feel the community feels we're deficient, and try to understand a little bit how we can, backfill that and work towards that a little bit better.
Mrs. Iacchino?
Yes. With all the new state mandates, what Somers has chose to do is to not just teach to special ed, not just to teach to gifted, but to teach to everybody. And we've raised the standards for every child in every classroom, in every grade, in every building. And children have rose to the occasion. I mean, our graduation rates are up, our state testing grades are up. Every test that our kids take are improving every single year higher and higher. More kids graduate with a Regents diploma. They're taking Regents classes they weren't taking before. They take AP classes. So not that we're not teaching for gifted kids. We do have programs for gifted kids. Primrose has Mrs. Bernstein that, she loves to say, strain your brain. She does work with gifted and talented people. SIS has Project Reach that pulls very creative children out of the classroom and does special things with them. In middle school and high school have the AP classes. They have, you can skip a year for science and math. They do have programs, but we've found that for Somers works best when we raise the bar for every student, and children will reach the bar. We've found that everyone is raising their standards, everybody's winning, it's not costing the taxpayer quite as much money, and we're unifying. We're a better school, we're a happier school. The teachers are being taught, that's why we have staff development days. It just seems to be working very, very well, so I'd like to continue that.
Thank you. Mr. Chang?
Yeah, I work with Reach teacher at SIS, Mrs. Rose Smith, and I personally go to her class and so forth. And I recently suggested they apply for a grant from SEF, and they got it, and to bringing an educational game tool to help the gifted kids and so forth. But those tools actually do apply to others. I think sometimes the Gifted Kids program could lead to the popular. It's a misnomer here that we only deal with the 5%, 10% good kids. In fact, the bar can only be raised if the top is raised. If you don't raise the top, you don't raise the bar. So I think we need to take those kind of initiative, and I think besides the so-called No Child Left Behind, we should have the No Father Left Behind, No Parents Left Behind. You need to pay attention if you have a gifted kid. You need to go to school, go to the principal, go to the teacher, go to the school board and suggest, okay, your initiative. And I think as a board member, as the board, we should be open-minded and embrace this kind of proposal and try the best to implement them.
Okay, we have time for one more question at any rate. Yes, sir.
My name is Erwin Norman, and I'm a resident of Heritage. One topic which has not been directed to you, what is your opinion on the sports program in the Somers schools, and how it should be supported and to what extent?
Mr. Chang, would go first on that, please? The sports program?
I think health and education are two most important elements in everybody's life, and particularly in children. So sports program should be supported, but supported for that reason, but not for a reason that is as a luxury item. I think there are so many sports that one can pursue, and sometimes we may have overloaded the kids in the way of having too many options. I think each family, each individual has to make that choice. The school have the obligation to treat it. My first priority is sports is considered important for children's development. Okay, I'm not against people to become a star, and I don't think we should have that kind of a identification. Every sport needs to a star, sportsman, but it's important. Every school should have a very strong sports program so that kids will pursue their physical development.
Thank you. Mr. Alafrios?
I support sports programs in schools. I think that as part of educational process, the sports programs teach children important life lessons, teamwork, they teach them responsibility, they teach them a good work ethic, hard work. I believe that that's important in a child's education, and I believe that the school has a role to play in that. So I would at all times support an athletic program and a sports program, as well as a music program. There are other programs out there, not just sports, that I would support. And I believe that as a school board, we would need to get behind to give our children the best opportunity they can to succeed in life, the best education, the best possible experiences that we can give them as parents and as a board.
Mr. Sirico?
I would start by saying that education is an experience. It's just not academics. I think the sports programs, as well as the extracurricular programs, are an important aspect of their education. I'd also add that, the changing demographics, there are more people working, and I think it's important that two families, parents both working, and I think that it's important to keep our children engaged. So I guess to answer to your question, I think it's a very important aspect of their learning, and I think it's good to offer them options, as many options as we can afford.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Aikio?
I would say that sports in Somers I personally think is a little disappointing. I think we're finally putting a little bit of money into sports. We're doing the turf field to make it safer. Sports is critical for kids. I mean, there's nothing for the kids to do in Somers. You go home from school, and it only cause trouble. They would get involved in drugs. They would, do things that are not right for our young students to do. So having some place to go in a environment where they can learn, they could be leaders, they could be a team player, they can be physically, challenging themselves is excellent. I don't think Somers over embellishes in sports. We don't have new uniforms every year. We don't overdo it. We don't have nothing is automated yet, but we're getting there. We're working towards that. But I support sports in Somers 100%. I mean, I wouldn't go overboard spending a ton of money, but I think if we plan accordingly, I think we can implement programs. Some kids don't excel in education. They excel in the field, and that's important. They should be able to excel where they feel where they can have self-esteem. They could be safe, where they could be with their friends, where they could be away from drugs, alcohol, and they could be someplace safe. And why not be in their schools? So I absolutely support sports. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Thank you. We have time for just one question, and then we'll go to the closing remarks of the candidates. Is there a burning desire to ask another question? Okay, then we'll go to the closing statements. And
We did that already.
I've already drawn them, and we're all set.
We've done that.
You're all set?
We're all set. Yeah, we did it earlier. Thank you, Mrs. Fox. Sorry. Do it over again? No, I can't do that. Okay, Mr. Oliviers is first.
Okay, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the League of Women Voters as well as the PTA and the community people that have turned out today. This is an important decision, and you should be commended for being part of this process. Why should you vote for me for the school board? I've laid out a case here of, number one, accountability, number two, being fiscally conservative, number three, being answerable and accountable to the voters, which to me is most important. The other thing that I would bring to Somers is safety, security, and to try to get the DARE program back in our school. And I would try to do that through grants and state aid if it was possible. We're in a school system right now that is a good school system. We're in a school system that has great teachers, For me, I have a vested interest here because I have young children. I'm going to be in the school system for a long time. And I want to make sure that it not only continues as a great school system, but if I can help it in any way, that's what I would like to do. And I think that there are opportunities for me to assist in making an even better experience for the children and their education. And I'd also, before my time runs out, I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the other people that are up here, because community service, I'm a public servant. I've been in community service my whole life, and it does take a lot to be up here and to be fielding questions. And I'd like to thank them. They all have a desire and a need to help our school system, and that should be commended.
Thank you, Mr. Oliviers. Ms. Akio?
Yes, I'd also like to thank everyone for coming out tonight, for the League of Women Voters for hosting this tonight. It's very nice, and for everybody up here who's running for the Board of Education. Like I said, this is my 6th year on the Board of Education. I'd like to serve another term. If you choose to vote me in, I'd like to continue the great work that we've started. It's not a mistake that we have a 4.8% tax increase this year. We've planned brilliantly, we've planned appropriately, we've planned with good heart, we've planned appropriately, and we're implementing technology, we're implementing safety, we're financially fiscal, we're planning financially right, we're hiring administrators, we're putting together a great athletic program. And those are all things that didn't happen by accident. They happened for a reason, because we planned appropriately. And I'd like to continue the great work that we started here in Somers, and I hope this to continue for the next. We're in such great shape for a very long time. We don't have any of the problems that our neighboring towns have. None of them. We haven't got anyone on the board who's arguing. We don't have our budget being voted down. We don't have our bonds being voted down. Children are happy. Most parents are happy. We're growing. We're happy. We're safe. It's a wonderful environment. It's a wonderful learning environment, most kids are very proud to say that they go to Somers School. And I'd love to, absolutely have to make sure that that continues. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chang.
Thank you for participating in this public forum. Please do come out to vote for the school budget and board election. I believe our children's future depends on a good school system, and our future depends on the children's future. So this is my motivation, that I want to serve the school board and I want to work for you. As a candidate, I urge you to vote for people best reflect your views. People you can talk to, you can relate your ideas to the board member. And I believe I have a passion for education, for schools and children. If I'm elected, I'll be working very hard for you, for the school system. And also urge everyone today, really warmed my heart, because I've been into these kind of forums and I see not even the front row is filled, or 7 or 8 people. Today we have lots of people, and this is a very good sign. I urge everybody to get involved. Education is everybody's business. Everybody should be supportive. And I think what I said, no parents should left behind, no father should left behind, is not a joke, okay? If you want children not left behind, you have to move forward, okay? I urge everybody to get involved with PTAs, school functions, okay? If you can run for the school board next year, do so, okay? This is why I'm a candidate, and I'm looking forward to be elected. Thank you.